Chapter 32. After all this, and after Hezekiah had shown his faithfulness, Sennacherib, king of Assyria, invaded Judah and laid siege to the fortified cities, planning to conquer them. When Hezekiah saw that Sennacherib intended to attack Jerusalem as well, he consulted his officials and military leaders and proposed that the water sources outside the city be blocked. They agreed to this plan. A large number of people gathered, and they stopped up all the springs and the stream that flowed through the land, saying, "Why should the kings of Assyria come and find plenty of water?" Hezekiah strengthened himself, rebuilt the broken sections of the wall, erected towers, and built another wall outside the first. He also strengthened the terraces in the city of David and made a large supply of weapons and shields. He appointed military officers over the people and gathered them before him in the square at the city gate and encouraged them, saying, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged because of the king of Assyria and his vast army, for there is a greater power with us than with him. He only has human strength, but we have the Lord our God to help us and to fight our battles." And the people were encouraged by the words of King Hezekiah. Later, while Sennacherib, king of Assyria, and his forces were besieging Lachish, he sent his officials to Jerusalem with this message for Hezekiah and for all the people of Judah who were there. This is what Sennacherib, king of Assyria, says. "On what are you basing your confidence that you remain in Jerusalem under siege? Hezekiah says that the Lord your God will save you from my hand, but he is deceiving you, and you will die of hunger and thirst. After all, wasn't it Hezekiah who removed your God's high places and altars, telling the people of Judah and Jerusalem to worship before one altar and burn incense on it? Do you not know what I and my predecessors have done to all the peoples of other lands? Were the gods of those nations able to save them from my hand? None of the gods of the nations that my ancestors destroyed could save their people from me. So why do you think your God can save you? Do not be deceived by Hezekiah. Do not believe him, for no God has ever been able to deliver his people from my hand or from the hand of my forefathers. How much less will your God deliver you?" The Assyrian officials continued to insult the Lord God and his servant Hezekiah. Sennacherib also wrote letters insulting the Lord, the God of Israel, saying, "Just as the gods of the nations of other lands did not rescue their people from my hand, so the God of Hezekiah will not rescue his people from my hand." The officials shouted this in Hebrew to the people of Jerusalem who were on the wall, trying to frighten them and terrify them into surrendering the city. They spoke about the God of Jerusalem as though he were like the gods of other nations, made by human hands. Then King Hezekiah and the prophet Isaiah, son of Amos, cried out in prayer to heaven. And the Lord sent an angel who annihilated all the fighting men, the leaders, and the commanders in the camp of the Assyrian king. So Sennacherib withdrew to his own land in disgrace. One day, while he was worshipping in the temple of his god, some of his own sons killed him with the sword. So the Lord saved Hezekiah and the people of Jerusalem from the hand of Sennacherib, king of Assyria, and from all others, gave them peace on every side. And he brought offerings to Jerusalem for the Lord and valuable gifts for Hezekiah, king of Judah. From then on, Hezekiah became highly respected among all nations. At that time, Hezekiah became seriously ill and was at the point of death. He prayed to the Lord, who answered him and gave him a miraculous sign. But Hezekiah did not respond with gratitude for what the Lord had done for him. His heart became proud. Therefore the Lord's wrath was on him, on Judah and on Jerusalem. Then Hezekiah humbled himself, as did the people of Jerusalem, and so the Lord did not bring the judgment on them during Hezekiah's lifetime. Hezekiah had very great riches and honor. He built storehouses for his silver, gold, precious stones, spices, shields, and all kinds of valuable items. He also built buildings to store the harvest of grain, wine, and olive oil, and stalls for various kinds of cattle and pens for flocks. He built cities and acquired large flocks and herds, for God had given him very great wealth. It was Hezekiah who stopped the upper outlet of the spring of Gihon and directed the water down through a tunnel to the west side of the city of David. He succeeded in everything he undertook. But when envoys were sent by the rulers of Babylon to ask him about the miraculous sign that had occurred in the land, God left him to test him and to know what was in his heart. The rest of the events of Hezekiah's reign, including his devotion to God, are written in the vision of Isaiah, son of Amoz, and in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. Hezekiah rested with his ancestors and was buried on the hill where the tombs of David's descendants are located. All Judah and the people of Jerusalem honored him when he died, and his son Manasseh succeeded him as king. Chapter 33. Manasseh was 12 years old when he became king of Judah, and he reigned 55 years in Jerusalem. Manasseh sinned against the Lord. Following the detestable practices of the nations that the Lord had driven out before the people of Israel, he rebuilt the pagan worship sites that his father Hezekiah had destroyed. He built altars for the worship of Baal, made Asherah poles, and worshipped the stars of the sky. He built pagan altars in the temple, the place where the Lord had said that his name would remain forever. In both courtyards of the Lord's temple, Manasseh built altars for worshipping the stars. He sacrificed his own sons in the fire in the valley of Ben-Hinnom, practiced divination, sorcery, and witchcraft, and consulted fortune-tellers and mediums. He sinned greatly against the Lord and provoked him to anger. Manasseh placed a carved idol in the temple, the place about which the Lord had said to David and to his son Solomon, in all the territory of the 12 tribes of Israel, "I have chosen this temple in Jerusalem to be the place where my name will be honored forever. And if the people of Israel obey all my commands and follow the law that Moses gave them, I will never again allow them to be driven from the land gave to their ancestors." But Manasseh led the people of Judah and Jerusalem to do even more evil, the nations the Lord had destroyed before Israel. The Lord spoke to Manasseh and his people, but they paid no attention. So the Lord allowed the commanders of the Assyrian army to invade Judah. They captured Manasseh with hooks, bound him with chains, and took him as a prisoner to Babylon. In his distress, Manasseh sought the favor of the Lord his God and humbled himself greatly before the God of his ancestors. When he prayed, God heard him and brought him back to Jerusalem and restored him to his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that the Lord is God. Afterward, Manasseh built a high wall around the city of David, west of the Gihon spring in the valley, extending to the fish gate and around the Aphel area. He appointed military commanders over all the fortified cities of Judah. He removed the foreign gods and the idol from the temple, and he tore down all the altars he had built on the temple hill and throughout Jerusalem, and threw them outside the city. He restored the altar of the Lord and offered peace offerings and thank offerings on it, and ordered the people of Judah to worship the Lord, the God of Israel. The people continued to sacrifice at high places, but only to the Lord their God. The rest of the acts of Manasseh his prayer to God and the words of the seers who spoke to him in the name of the Lord, God of Israel, these are written in the book of the kings of Israel. His prayer and how God answered him, all his sins and unfaithfulness, and the places where he built altars and set up Asherah poles and idols before he humbled himself, these are written in the records of the prophets. Manasseh died and was buried in the garden of his palace, and his son Amon became king in his place. Amon was 22 years old when he became king, and he reigned 2 years in Jerusalem. Like his father Manasseh, Amon sinned against the Lord. He offered sacrifices to all the idols his father had made and worshipped them. But unlike his father, he did not humble himself before the Lord. Instead, Amon continued to sin more and more. Amon's officials conspired against him and assassinated him in his palace. But the people of Judah killed all who had plotted against Amon and made his son Josiah king in his place.